Hey everyone, my name is Rahul and today we are going to learn about the coordinate system. So first of all we are going to learn about the 2D coordinate system. So let's assume that I want to create a 2D coordinate system. Okay. So what I will be doing is I will draw a vertical axis that we call it as a y-axis and a horizontal axis that we call it as a x-axis. So when we are combining these two axes, okay, then their point of intersection is called this origin, okay, and this both lines will be perpendicular to each other. That means the angle between these two lines will be a 90-degree. Okay, so when this 2D coordinate system is created by combining these two axes, y-axis and the x-axis, so it will be divided into four quadrant. That is a quadrant 1, quadrant 2, quadrant 3 and quadrant 4. Okay, and suppose if I want to plot a point, okay, on the this coordinate system. So for example, I want to plot a point, say 5 comma 1. So what I will be doing is I will be drawing a vertical axis passing through point 5 on the x-axis, okay, and I will be drawing a horizontal axis passing through point y, okay, sorry, passing through y-axis on a point 1, okay, and when these two line intersect, okay, then their point of intersection is called 5 comma 1. So in this case 5 is the x component and 1 is the y component. Okay, similarly if you see here, I want to plot a point 1 comma y minus 1. Okay, so what I will be doing is I will be drawing a vertical axis passing through point 1. Okay, passing through point 1 on the x-axis, and I will be drawing a horizontal line passing through minus 1, okay, on the y-axis. Then their point of intersection, which is called x and y component. Here x component will be 1 and y component will be minus 1. So for example, suppose if I plot a point in this first quadrant, okay, so in this case you can see the x-axis is also positive and y-axis is also positive. So in this case the point that you plot, then the x component will be positive and y component will be also positive. Okay, and if you plot a point in the second quadrant, then in that case the x component will be negative and the y component will be positive. And if you go to third quadrant, then in this case both x and y axis are negative, so x and y component will be negative. So coming to fourth quadrant, if you plot a point in this quadrant, okay, so here the x-axis is positive and y-axis is negative. So x component will be positive and the y component will be negative. So I think that you might have understand how this coordinate system works and how we plot a point in this 2D coordinate system. So why we use this coordinate system? So suppose if I want to draw, like if I am like writing a linear equation, okay, so which represent a line, okay, so in order to visualize that, we are using the 2D coordinate system to visualize the point, data points, data patterns. Okay, so that's why we are using the coordinate system. So now coming to 3D coordinate system, so you can see here, like suppose if you are in a room or you are in a box, okay, so there is a plane here parallel to the ground. Okay, so this plane consists of x axis and the y axis, and there is another axis perpendicular to this plane that is going in upward direction, that is called z axis. So suppose if we want to plot a point in this 3 axis, okay, which is also called a 3D coordinate space. So if you want to plot a point, so you can see here there is a point which represent x, y and z component. So here if you want to represent the x and y component, what you will do is, you can see here this plane consists of the x axis and the y axis. So here if you can see here, you will count 0, 1, 2. So you will be drawing a vertical line on the x axis. So this is the point, okay? So vertical line passing through point 2, point 2 on the x-axis, and a vertical and horizontal line you can see here 0, 1, 2, 3. So passing through number 3 on the y-axis. So that point of intersection represents uh, 2 comma 3. Okay, so if you see here this point will be projected on this intersection. So here x represent 2, y represent 3, and if you count on the z axis, okay, so if you count this unit like 0, 1, 2, 3, okay, so here the z component will be 3. Okay, so this point represent 2 comma 3 comma 3. Similarly, if you see this image, yeah, so here this point is projected on the x intersection point of the x and y axis. Okay, and if you see here, like there we draw a line passing through this point on the z axis, cutting this point. Okay, so the z component will denote the point on this z axis. Okay, so now if you want to learn more about in the real example how 3D coordinate system works, so let's see in the real time. So you can see a cuboid representing the three-dimensional coordinate system. So here you can see here this is the y-axis, x-axis and z-axis. So let me plot one point here. So you can see here I have plot one point that is 1 comma 1 comma 2, that is x component is 1, y component is 1 and z component is 2. So let me show you. So you can see here with respect to x and z axis. Okay, so here you can see here this point. Okay, you can imagine a line cutting the point 2 on the z axis and a line cutting the point 1 on the x axis. The intersection of that point is 1 comma 2. So x component is 1 and z component is 2. Okay, so I am just teaching you with respect to x and z axis, not with respect to x, y and z axis. Okay, so you can see here this x and z both axis. Okay, and now let me show you y and z axis. Yeah, so if you can see here the same goes for the y and z axis. Here the y component is 1 and the z component is 2. Now if we consider the three-dimensional axis, okay, x, y and z, so now you can see here like for the x and the y component, okay, is 1 and the z component is 2. So let me just show you the xy plane. Okay, so you can see here the xy plane. So you can imagine as a 2D coordinate system. So we are just clicking an image above the cuboid. Okay, so you can consider it as a x and y axis. So here you can see that here the x component and the y component of the point represents 1 comma 1. Okay, and now I'm switching to cuboid. So here you can see the z component is 2.